Welcome to the first and perhaps last episode of the Vlog. I am your host, whose name is yet to be determined. Triggerheart Exelica is a vertical shooter from Warashi, which originally made its way to the Japanese arcades in May of 2006. It was subsequently ported to the Sega Dreamcast as a Japanese exclusive on February 27, 2007, making Triggerheart Exelica the penultimate game for the Sega Dreamcast. It also saw an enhanced port, Triggerheart Exelica Enhanced, for the Japanese PlayStation 2 on March 26, 2009. The version I'm reviewing was released on the Xbox 360 on February 27, 2008, as part of the Xbox Live Arcade. I'm playing this on my Xbox One S console, which became backwards compatible with Triggerheart Exelica on July 28, 2016. I've always been a fan of classic arcade shooters like Galaga and Tempest. Triggerheart Exelica is of the vertical scrolling variety, so it is more Galaga than Tempest. However, instead of playing as a ship shooting aliens, you play as an anime girl who also shoots aliens. Arcade shooters of this era typically had some sort of unique gameplay mechanic that set them apart from other shooters. In this one, it has an anchor system which allows you to capture your enemies and spin them around in a circle. I mean, just look at her go. It's actually kinda cool. In some situations, spinning around makes a lot of sense, but at other times, spinning around like a top is a really bad idea. It's your job to figure out which is the best strategy for any given situation. The anchor system can also be used in situations as a lock-on for boss characters, which lets you shoot the boss more easily at the expense of slowing down your movements. In addition, it has a variable boss attack system, or VBAS, where the bosses get harder the more points you receive. In Triggerheart Exelica, you play as one of two anime girls who are referred to as Triggerhearts. Exelica has a wide shot, which makes it easier to survive attacks, while Cruel Tear has a straight shot, which helps her more easily rack up a high score. You play through 5 stages, and the entire campaign takes slightly less than 20 minutes to complete. However, simply beating the campaign isn't what Triggerheart Exelica is all about. It's about trying to get the high score and trying to complete the game with a single credit. I've never been particularly the greatest at these games, although I did win a Galaga 88 tournament when I was in college. After playing through the game quite a few times, I have come to the conclusion that I have absolutely no idea what is going on here. I'm about to give some spoilers to this 2006 shooter, so if you don't want to know the story and want to experience it for yourself, you have been warned. From what I can gather from playing the game, the story is that you play as one of the two previously mentioned anime girls. The one with purple hair is named Exelica, and the one with red hair is named Cruel Tear. Both anime girls have rockets strapped to their butts, because that is where one typically puts their rockets. You fight a bunch of enemies, presumably aliens, because reasons, until you reach another anime girl with blonde hair, named Fein Tear, who is evil because she wears red, and she must be defeated. Although, why is Fein Tear the name of the bad girl and not Cruel Tear? Why not call the game Triggerhearts instead of naming the game after Exelica? Honestly, I have absolutely no idea. You easily defeat the blonde anime girl, but your friend becomes overcome with some evil force or something, and you must stop your friend from doing something, presumably evil. You defeat your friend and free her from whatever that was, and she saves your life by throwing you out of the exploding stage. After the credits, you stare off into the sunset, wearing much more sensible clothing. The story is the same regardless of which girl you pick, the only difference being in determining who dies and who stares off into the sunset. All in all, I really like Triggerheart Exelica. It's a fun little arcade title that doesn't take itself too seriously. I'm not sure what's going on with regards to the story, but it's still a fun game to play. For the sake of this video, I looked it up in the menus, and apparently this game does have a story. Let me read it for you now. Far away, in a system so distant that the light from its stars will never reach the earth, a war was drawing to a close. Exelica and Crueltier, humanoid weapon system called Triggerhearts, developed by Childa, an interplanetary defense organization, were sent to join the fight against the autonomous combat unit known as the Vermith. In the midst of the battle, just as they had taken the upper hand against the Vermith, Exelica and Crueltier were accidentally sent to Earth using an emergency teleportation gate activated by the Vermith. Finding themselves on an unknown planet, and without the strength to return home, the injured Triggerhearts were despondent, as they did not even have the means to learn the outcome of the battle. They had just about recovered from the wounds, and had finally begun to consider Earth as a haven, when it happened. A nightmarish vision filled the sky. The remains of the Vermith forces had arrived. The gate had reopened. Although the Vermith forces had departed at the same time as Exelica and Crueltier, the gate's instability had caused a lag in their arrival. The Vermith had chosen the Earth as their new base of operations. The invasion had begun. Exelica and Crueltier knew they had no choice but to fight to protect their new home. They also had some character bios, so let me read them for you now. Exelica, a Triggerheart, a humanoid weapon system developed by Childa, the smallest and newest model of Triggerheart. An almost human personality, combined with an impressive arsenal, makes her the ultimate weapon against the Vermith. Crueltier, a Triggerheart implanted with an artificial personality as Exelica's sister. Her movement speed and some other specs exceed those of her sister. She tends to be slightly hot-headed. Faintier, a mysterious enemy who appears before Exelica and Crueltier. So I was mostly correct, but who creates robotic anime girls and turns them into weapons of mass destruction? Why make them sisters? Why make it so when one of the girls tragically dies that the other weapon of mass destruction becomes really depressed about it? Also, who is Faintier? We learn absolutely nothing about her during the course of the game, and the character bio doesn't really say anything other than she's mysterious. Also, What about that random cat? Whose cat is this? Where did it come from? And is the cat also a weapon of mass destruction? Or is it just a cat? What is going on here? Is Faintier simply evil because she's evil? Did the Vermith make their own anime girl? Is Faintier their older sister who went rogue and wants to kill her sisters to prove that she is best girl? Does the cat in Exelica's ending die if Cruel Tear survives? Strange story aside, arcade shooters like Triggerheart Exelica are a lot of fun. But for the longest time they were left in Japan and were really cost prohibitive to import. The original Japanese Dreamcast version of the title is still very expensive, especially for a 20-minute game. The Japanese PlayStation 2 version is just as pricey. The PlayStation 2 version is even more difficult to justify because it requires you to have a Japanese system in order to play. So to pay $10 to play it on my Xbox makes me very happy. Before I end this video, I just want to point out that I was not compensated for this review from the developer Warashi, who I don't think even exists anymore, or the game's publisher, Microsoft. I was also not given a review copy of Triggerheart Exelica. I paid for it myself. I paid full price for this game just like everybody else, and this video is in no way an endorsement of the aforementioned product. These are just my personal feelings and opinions meant for entertainment and educational purposes only, as I'm partially making this video in order to learn how to use the iMovie on my Apple Macintosh. I hope you enjoyed my first video, and I want to remind you not to subscribe to this channel unless you want to watch even more of my poorly produced videos if I ever decide to make them. Don't do it. No, don't. I see you thinking about it. Do not click that subscribe button. No. Fine, just do whatever you want. See if I care.